Welcome to a lesson with Dr. Powell. Let's briefly review the quotient rule. Now, as we look at this, we could think of this fraction as being x squared plus 1 multiplied by sine of x to the negative 1. So really there's no need for a quotient rule necessarily, because we can use the product rule and then the chain rule because something is inside of a negative 1 power here. So off we go, product rule and chain rule. But in using the product rule and chain rule, we're going to have varying powers here to the negative 1 and to the negative 2 eventually. And then we can rewrite those as fractions and add fractions. But in the process of adding fractions and in the result, it can be simplified into what we call the quotient rule, which is as follows. We look at this guy on the top, this guy on the bottom, and it's going to look the result is going to be an adding fractions deal from using a product and quotient product and chain rule, as I mentioned. So we're just going to write down a quotient as we take the derivative of this. What goes on the bottom is actually going to be a sine x quantity squared. You can see where that will come from. You think about the derivative of something to the negative 1 power, you subtract 1 in the exponent, there's a negative 2. Okay, that's actually where that's coming from. But right away, when you see this, we just look at the denominator and you tap on a square. Now what happens on the top? We take what is on the top and we take its derivative, which is 2x, and we just multiply it to what's on the bottom, just as is. Now we're going to have something else going on here, but just keep in mind, notice what's happening. This sine x divided by sine squared, there will be a cancellation if we were just looking at right here. And so you'd have a sine to the negative 1. Actually, it's basically just this times the derivative of that so far. But we've added fractions. Okay, well, let's keep going. The next part is we subtract, not add as in a product rule. The subtraction actually comes from bringing this negative 1 down in front on taking a derivative of this part. So minus, and then what we do is we have this as is. We already took its derivative. So this as is, the top as is, x squared plus 1. And then we take the derivative of the bottom. Now the derivative of the bottom is the same thing as just multiplying something on with the chain rule, because it was the inside of something else. And then, of course, we're adding fractions and other things like that. But nonetheless, this right here then is the derivative. We just wrote out the derivative. Let's review what was done. So we have a function over another one, and its derivative is going to be, notice I'm using an arrow, not an equal sign. It's kind of like a derivative arrow, is going to be something like f prime g minus fg prime all over g squared. Notice where the subtraction goes. It goes when we take the derivative of the bottom. And that's pretty much the rule. Thanks for watching.